All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 15 of the Green Line Gazette. I'm here today with good friend Jack Cavanaugh. We're breaking down the U.S. men's national team 26-man roster and doing a little World Cup preview. Going to be talking about the game versus Senegal today. Remember, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Substack. Give us a follow on Instagram as well and enjoy the show. So, Jack, how you doing, man? Good?
Doing great. How are you, Luke?
Good. Doing well. Why don't you give the people a little background on where you're coming from?
Yeah, of course. I'm a junior like Luke at Boston College. I've been following the U.S. national team since probably 2017, 2018, but I got really serious post-COVID, like 2020 and on. I've been like a really big fan. So I've been hyped for this World Cup for a long time. And yeah, I'm really excited. I think the hype's finally building up. So yeah, I'm just really excited for everything that's coming up here.
I mean, yeah, I gotta agree. Like today was probably the Senegal game today is the first time I've watched a game and been like genuinely like I have a couple negative things to say, but I was very excited and it was very pleasant. We could have won that game like 7-2 if we could finish and if the ref wasn't handing out ridiculous decisions. So it was great watching. All right, we're just going to get right into the 26-man roster. We're going to weave in kind of some performances from today's game, just whatever's relevant. So starting off, right, no shocker, Matt Turner, New England Revolution player, is back, no longer at Arsenal.
Yeah.
I mean, not too much to say here. I mean, we know who he is. I think, he's obviously the best first choice keeper. I like him. He's got really good, shot stopping ability. Like we saw that today with that split kick save. He ranks really high, like top percentiles for post shot expected goals, minus goals allowed, which is just, fancy way of saying he's really good with his rebound control, which, never a bad thing to have a keeper who can do that.
Absolutely. I would say he's if you look at the numbers statistically, as far as shot stopping and a couple other things too, he's far and away the best goalkeeper in MLS right now. And I know 2022 World Cup, people were a little bit shaky. I think he was at Arsenal or maybe headed to Crystal Palace at this point.
Like
people were worried about the minutes he was getting, but if he's going to be, an elite MLS goalkeeper, that's not a bad thing. And the U.S. is a team that's been known to have some fantastic goalkeepers. And, maybe we're not necessarily at that standard as we have been 2014, 2010, things like that. But I think Matt Turner at the number one is a solid player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even I guess it's kind of different with goalkeepers, I would say, in terms of quality. Like you can be concerned about, we'll talk about Miles Robinson from FC Cincinnati in a moment. But I mean, if you're a goalie like Turner in the MLS, it doesn't. Yeah, he's horrible. But it doesn't matter if you're still facing shots regardless. Like the shots are not any easier to save in the MLS than they are, when he was at Arsenal. So I'm not too concerned with him, being in the domestic league right now. And like you said, he is probably the best goalkeeper in the entire MLS. So that's always a plus. Again, we've seen him play. I'm excited. I think I think we'll be fine. Poch definitely has us. I mean, I don't know what your take on building out of the back is with our back line, which that was kind of one of the things that was a little scary today, is we definitely struggled with that. And I mean, I don't know about you. I don't think Turner feels too confident on the ball at times, which, I mean, if you're going to try and build out of the back, that's not a good thing, but I think he's serviceable.
Yeah. I would say that while Turner might not be the most comfortable, he really looks awkward with the ball at his feet. But even though, he may not be the best with the ball at his feet, I'd say he's still the best of our three goalkeepers in that situation. Matt Freese isn't much better. And as we saw today, Brady is just an average goalkeeper all around. So I don't know. I think Matt Turner, as far as options going into the World Cup, what are your opinions on the Turner versus Freese debate? Do you think that there's going to be a competition there, or is it all Turner all the way?
I mean, I think you have to go Turner, at least for game one. I mean, right, he's been here, he's been tested, he's had lots of international caps for us. I just think he's such a good shot stopper too. I mean, and it's no hate to Freeze. I just think you kind of have to give Turner the nod here just because I think he's going to be more comfortable in the situations that they're going to find themselves in, especially, I mean, we'll get into this later with the group stage stuff, but you play these, these CONCACAF and CONMEBOL teams like Paraguay who are just absolute maniacs off the ball in the press. I don't know how well a first time, World Cup cap for Matt Freeze would go if he's dealing with all of that. But I mean, what about you? I think you got to give Turner the nod.
I would say I agree when the distribution factor isn't there's no differentiation between Turner and Freeze. I think that Turner's proved himself more consistent for longer. Freeze was a great player when Turner was going through a shaky patch a year and a half ago, but I think Turner's won back the position. I was maybe 60-40 going into today on who was going to be the starter, whether I wanted it to be Turner or Freeze, but I think after Poch starts Turner, it's pretty clear that it's going to end up being Turner from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, we can get on to Freeze right here. New York City FC guy, another MLS guy, all three goalkeepers coming from the MLS. He's a good, like, I guess, old school, like, sweeper keeper, for lack of a better term. Again, I don't know how he will fare against Paraguay and teams like Turkey, who are just really aggressive in the press. We already said Turner does struggle with the ball at his feet. You said he looks awkward, which I do agree with. I think, right, if things start to go south, or if, if Poch is, really focus on building out of the back like he was today, and if Turner's not cutting it, I think you do get, a guy like Freeze to kind of hop in there. Like, he's super aggressive in kind of the highlight, like, compilations I've watched, especially like playing off of his line, which I guess is what we are looking for. So I wouldn't be too shocked if it's not going perfectly, or, at least quite well, we could, I think, see Freeze.
Yeah, totally. I think that Freeze also, another thing, you see this a lot of times. Sometimes the second choice goalkeeper is somebody who's just a penalty maniac, and Freeze is absolutely that guy. He was in the Gold Cup. I forget who we were playing, but he had 2 or 3 penalty stops in one game. And it was so cool. At that point, I was positive that he was going to be starting at the World Cup. Unfortunately, I think fortunately, I guess, I think Turner's the better keeper, but I think that, it would not be ridiculous if we go to penalties in a knockout stage game, bring in Matt Freeze. That guy could stop a shot or two, and that's that completely turns the game around.
Yeah, I mean, I love running that 2-keeper rotation for Pens, right? Getting fresh legs out there, and if he is a great, pen stopper like he is, I see really no problem with that. To be honest, also went to Harvard, so probably a smart
economics
guy.
major. Yeah,
there you go. I'm sure he knows exactly what's going on, so wouldn't mind that. Last guy, Chris Brady from the Fire. The only time I've ever watched this man play was today in the second half, and he let up a disastrous goal and just looked really shaky and uncomfortable out there. I mean, this isn't anything to worry about. Like, he's an emergency, keeper. Like, God forbid if anything happens to the first 2 options. I don't think there's much to say. He looked a little finicky and, like, almost scared of a lot of in-swinging crosses, which was concerning, but I can't really see him getting too much game time.
Yeah, I will say that the only thing worse than his first minutes for the U.S. is his haircut. I think, like, he's just there's nothing.
That was a rough one.
Yeah. I don't know. I think no hate. I don't think he's like a terrible goalkeeper. I'm sure he's great in Chicago, but first time ever watching him, and it wasn't anything impressive, but obviously nothing we got to worry about. I will say one more thing on the goalkeepers too. If we're going to be playing that 3 at the back formation, like it looks like we will be for the World Cup, I think that takes a little bit of pressure off the keeper as far as distribution. We talked about how shaky Turner looks with the ball at his feet. I think that when you have a 3 at the back formation, your job as a keeper goes less from finding the right option and more just like find that center back and let them handle the distribution from there. I think that's a good thing with the selection of keepers that we have. That's nobody who is going to be finding any like line breaking passes or anything. So a 3 at the back formation kind of suits Matt Turner's style of play.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been nice to see Poch kind of experiment with changing the formation. Like even today, like Reyna was rotating between kind of like almost like an 8, and then he ended up on the right wing at times, and he would drop back into the midfield. And then of course playing 3 at the back. So it is a little refreshing to see actual tactics being deployed for the US.
You're not a fan of Berhalter ball? Throw 11 men out there, see what happens.
I will say when we get to him, I do like his son. I thought he played better than he has. But we'll get to him in a moment. But no, Greg Berhalter was not my favorite guy. All right, getting into defenders here. Obviously, like I think our best defender, Anthony Robinson, Jedi, right, playing for Fulham, just scored his first Premier League goal off a pen against like Burnley in match week 38 for whatever reason.
Good for him.
I think he's one of the best fullbacks in all of European football, like hands down. He is just such a dangerous two-way threat, and we saw that today. Like he can fly up and down the pitch, outpace, he was outpacing all of the wingers that he was getting matched up with, even when he came in, clashes with Sadio Mane. He was handling him quite well. And, Mane's obviously world class too. So I'm very excited that he's healthy and like absolutely ready to go. I think he's going to be a huge, huge part of this World Cup run, like no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Anthony Robinson is sneaky one of the top 3 players for the U.S., and I think he has been for at least 3 or 4 years now. I think he's a phenomenal player in the Prem. I'll catch Fulham games every once in a while just to watch him play, and I think that, I don't know, there's something about the way that he plays that's just a step above a lot of the other guys on this roster. I think the quality with the ball at his feet, his ability to put crosses in, and then, as you said, is up the pitch, then back down the pitch. It's good on all sides. I don't see many issues with this game. And I think that he needs to be playing every minute that matters at this World Cup, without a doubt.
No, absolutely. Like very well said. I think this is definitely a top 3 player. Definitely, again, like I said, best player in our back line. No doubt about that. Stamina's insane. Like this dude will sprint the entire game. Really reliable, like overlapping runs and through balls, opening up like the wide spaces. He can stretch the field horizontally too, which we saw today, which is very relieving. It gives the game definitely a little bit more room to breathe. And even for like Pulisic, it helps him kind of tuck into that like left half space where he really thrives. And it's just it's kind of amazing how one guy can open the field so much, but that's exactly what Anthony Robinson does. And I think that's, just one of the many things obviously that makes him so valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And his, as you mentioned, his link-up play with Pulisic, the two of them have now been playing on that left flank for I don't know how many starts they have together out there, but there's a good dynamic going, and I think they balance each other out really well. I think there's something similar with Dest on the other side, but I think the link-up play that the two of them have on the left flank is something special, and I think that his ability defensively really makes up for Pulisic's lack of work rate coming back, and I think that that's a huge factor because you don't want your best players to be leaving holes in the defense. As good as they may be on offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess moving to his counterpart, Serginho Dest, PSV Eindhoven, also just a great player. I think kind of second in line just behind Robinson on the the hierarchy of success on the back line. Watching Dest this year in the Eredivisie, I always butcher the Dutch league. But I mean, you could even look at the stats, like his successful take on percentage, just basically being able to dribble past players as like a wing back or like an inverted wing back are extremely high. He bagged one today, the opening goal off of Pulisic and Sitch, where he found himself inside the 6-yard box in transition. So, I mean, this dude is basically kind of a Swiss Army knife, like, winger, wing back. And he even plays as like almost a functional midfielder, like helping break that first line in transition. And I think that makes him just incredibly valuable.
Yeah. And I think in a way that's different to the way Anthony Robinson plays, but in a good way for this 5-back system, if Anthony Robinson's more of a true outside back, Dest is very much a wing back or an outside mid. He loves to get up the field. He'll be as high up the pitch or even further up the pitch than our right winger. Loves getting balls into the box, loves getting into the box himself, as we saw with the goal he scored today. And I think that that's a really good dynamic. If he can kind of shift that back line over and Jedi drops back into the left back spot, it frees him up to do a lot of things. And when he has a more fluid position, a lot of good stuff happens. So I'm excited to see him play in this 5-back formation. Really shaky when he plays in a 4-back, I think, at sometimes. And I think that that was an issue that I had with him in the past when he would play as a true right back. But I think that, number one, he's gotten a little better with his defensive game. But number two, the freedom that he has as a wing back is something that I really like to see.
Yeah, I think Poch definitely, has identified that letting both outside backs kind of run up and down the wing is exactly how those two guys were made to play. And it's clearly, excelling quite well. I mean, also fun fact, like he was born in the Netherlands, totally could have probably maybe wouldn't be starting for the Netherlands, but would definitely be a squad player. No doubt. He still chose the US at a young age. So awesome dude. Like excited to see how he plays. Looked really good today. Bagging that
in his Barcelona days, there was when he was like 18, 19 when he made that move to Barcelona, and I thought that he was going to be not just one of the best American players, but one of the best defenders in the world when he made that move. It didn't exactly work out, and he's still kind of hated in Barcelona, but I think that he's still a quality player, and he's showing that he's recovered. He's gotten his career back on track, and he's going to be a great asset at this World Cup.
Yeah. Absolutely. Moving on, Chris Richards, Crystal Palace, Conference League winner. He did not play today, picked up a knock kind of in the later game weeks of the Prem. Seemed to be minor. It sounds like he should be back, although I am unsure. But obviously I think this is a starting center back for us when he's fully healthy. Great in the air. Like he wins, I think I saw sounds like over kind of 75% of all aerial duels, especially on set pieces. He wins. I mean, just, how the game is evolving today, set pieces, now as important than ever. So having, a true ball hawk kind of locking down the center of that defense is, I think, great. I love Chris Richards. Palace fans absolutely love him. So I really hope he can kind of get back to full fitness because I mean, it would kind of be a shame if he doesn't get to have a go.
Yeah, without a doubt, he's our best center back, I think. And I've heard rumors that he should be 100% by the time the World Cup rolls around. Obviously, that's assuming he doesn't re-injure anything, but I could see him, and not only that, I could see him in all three center back positions. I could see him out left, out right, or down the middle. I think he's quality enough to play all three of those positions. He's undergone. Well, he plays in that 3-back system at Crystal Palace, and they underwent some serious changes. Mark Gahey going to City, and he was able to, he would play on the left, he would play on the right, just a quality center back, Prem quality player. So I'm a big fan of his. Absolutely starts, absolutely locked in. I'm not sure if he ends up on the left flank or down the middle, but he's going to be one of our three.
Yeah. Also has, great pace, obviously, and playing in the Prem and getting Europe games this season. Like he's probably in the best form of his life. I would honestly say, barring that injury he picked up. So, if you're right, like if he can come back, that'll be, that is just exactly what that back line needs. Moving on right to the back line, announced as captain just yesterday, Tim Ream, Charlotte FC, longtime appearances for the USMNT. It was weird. I don't know if you caught those moments today, but he was like dribbling the ball up the pitch, like putting on like skill moves on their forwards, which I just have never seen him do. Like I don't know. I think he's is he 37 or 38?
I think he's 38 years old. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, so obviously brought into the team, as a veteran leader, you can expect that. I don't know if he'll get real game time in the World Cup. I think that it'll depend on what happens with Chris Richards and, if Tim Ream can really play a full 90 at his fitness. He did have a couple pretty bad mistakes, especially turnovers, either in our own defensive third or right around midfield, which one of them almost led to a near goal after a great save by Turner. So I mean, I love him being included into this squad. Great passer, when it matters. Does have some pretty errant mistakes, which definitely could come back to haunt us. But I think, and a team of young guys, this is, I think the veteran you really do need leading the team.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think I was a huge fan of him at the last World Cup. I think that his the way that he kind of carried himself at Fulham in his last couple of years, though, there when he went from kind of a rotational player to a genuine starter at 32 or 33 years old was very impressive. And the issue with that, though, is the thing that differentiated himself was his distribution, and it was his ability to be 3 steps ahead of the offensive players, because he definitely wasn't going to be able to catch up if they get past him. And so while he is very much one of those like leaders, a very intelligent player, I think that we're starting to see the signs of age. He's 38 years old. You're going to see that. And some of his distribution choices were a little bit questionable, as you pointed out. I think that if he can bring himself to be a better distributor, there's an argument to be made also as a naturally left-footed center back. That's very helpful to put him on the left side for distribution purposes again. But I'm just a little bit nervous to have him out there. When he gets beat, he's beat, and there's he's not coming back. And I don't know. There were a couple of times in games over the last calendar year, that I've seen where, it's just kind of like some of the goals are completely his fault. He needs to close down the space. He doesn't get there. And so I don't know. There's an argument to be made that he starts, but I'm not sure how I feel about that. With that being said, if you're going to start 3 center backs, clearly with the depth that we have at center back, there's going to be some choices that are made. And I wouldn't be upset with him starting as a left center back, but at the same time, I don't know. I think there are better options out there. So I'm interested to see what Poch does.
Yeah. I mean, especially, if you can have Richards in, who's got more pace, then maybe you could make a case for getting him into that 11, or at least as a rotational player. But I do agree. Yeah. I'm going to let you lead here on this one. Miles Robinson, FC Cincinnati.
Miles Robinson is a terrible player. I think I haven't liked him ever since he joined FC Cincinnati. I'm originally from there, so I've watched a fair amount of those games. I've watched him play live for the U.S. I've watched him play live for FC Cincinnati, and every time I watch him play, I look at him and I'm like, this guy, he's not even MLS quality. He's just not a very good player. I think that there are, I don't even know who they would be, but there has to be a dozen MLS center backs that are better than him. And I just don't see, I'm not sure, we'll talk about snubs in a little bit, but I don't see how this isn't one of the biggest snubs to someone else, because Miles Robinson does not deserve to be on this 26-man roster, especially with how many center backs we're bringing. I get that we're playing, five defender formation, but he's just not a very good defender. His distribution is horrible. His decision-making is bad. His, defensive one-on-one skills are not up to par. And then on top of that, he's a very fast player, but he runs around like a chicken with his head cut off. His positioning's awful. I just think he's an all-around bad player, and I'm disappointed that he's in this roster.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's a great, if you want to talk about the best pure defenders based on athleticism, it's probably him, but
yeah, absolutely.
Basically gets an F grade in every other category. I was reading a rundown from, it might have been ESPN or Bleacher Report or something, but it was I have it right here. It says Robinson is arguably the best pure defender in the pool, though he lacks the progressive line-breaking passing ability that Poch generally demands from his center backs. And I'm like, if you read that one sentence, I agree with you. I have no clue how he made this 26-man roster. Yes, he's fast, but he has no IQ. He fouls quite a lot.
Yeah.
The only thing I can remember, I totally forgot about this dude, and I was just kind of looking him up, and he was the one who scored in the Gold Cup final in 2020 or whatever, in extra time against Mexico. And that is the last time I've ever heard of this man. And that was 5 years ago. So definitely a little concerning how he has made his way into this lineup.
Yeah, and when you say he's just a bad player, it's not just with the U.S., it's with FC Cincinnati, it's with his MLS club too. So he's not just, at his level when he gets to the U.S., he's he's a USL quality player, and that's all there is to say about it.
Oh, yeah. All right. We'll go to Joe Scally here from Borussia Mönchengladbach in the German league. He'll be I think a rotational fullback. I like bringing him on here for depth. I think he can play well on either side, both the right and the left. I don't think he's as versatile as the Jedis or the Des in terms of being able to kind of get up and down the pitch and offer more than just being a true fullback. But I mean, if we need to protect a lead at whatever point, I wouldn't really mind maybe shifting Des to the defensive midfield spot and then taking Scally, putting him on the left or the right, wherever he needs to go, just to play that true defender role. But I mean, besides that, I think, good rotational player. I think he played well in his club season, so I don't have too many complaints about this.
Yeah, I have no complaints. I do think that it's a little bit redundant with how many defenders we brought into this camp, into this roster, to have 10 defenders, and the Joe Scallys and the Robinsons of the world are on this roster. It just confuses me when we're bringing 4 midfielders and 10 defenders. I think that we're going to be very thin in the midfield, which obviously we'll get to in a second. But Joe Scally is just one of those players where he seems so redundant. Every position that he could play, although he is very versatile, left back, center back, right back, is already covered by at least 2 other players who can do it better than him. And so while I do respect his versatility, I think that there were better options in other positions that we could have used this slot for. With that being said, I think he's a fine player, and I think he'll be helpful to this roster, even if it's only on the practice field.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be helpful. Definitely not going to change the game by any means. But yeah, quite interesting that we did really just stack the defensive side of this roster. I don't know if you have any insight, but I haven't really heard of anything why. Maybe it's just preference for Poch or what, but
yeah, I mean, it's very clear that we're going to be playing that 3-4-3 or that 5-3-2, something like that. It's going to be a 3 center back formation. But I don't know, even then you need midfielders, and given we have Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, and then the level just really drops off after that. So I would have loved to have seen a Tanner Tessmann or someone brought in, because I think that that's a quality player who we could have had for depth, and it would have made things a lot less shaky, because we're going to need every minute out of Tyler Adams. Otherwise, there's going to be some serious holes in our midfield. So,
yeah, absolutely. We'll move on to Austin Trusty here from Celtic. He had decent game minutes today. Didn't really do too much. Another just kind of depth center back. I think, I've heard he can play left back at times, but I think going into these last couple of players, I think it's just going to be exactly what you said about Joe Scally. I just think there's kind of people who can do it better, and I think it would have been wiser to use these roster spots just on other players at other positions. He's left-footed though, which is good. Good aerial presence. He could definitely play out of the back from what I've seen at Celtic, which is, always a positive, especially in this system. Gets in front of the ball a lot. He ranks well on blocks and clearances per 90. So, it's kind of what you expect out of someone who plays in the Scottish Premiership. It's kind of how every team plays. It's just a very physical, more simple style of the game, I suppose. But I don't think he's going to be anything, super impactful.
Yeah, I think you said it all. He's a good center back, left-footed player. He can play a couple positions, but again, a little bit redundant. I don't see him getting meaningful minutes, save a couple injuries, but I think that at least over Joe Scally, I think that he's a player that I would trust or over Robinson, I would trust him to get minutes. I just think there's better options with a healthy 26-man roster.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, started today right next to, on the right side of Tim Ream from Toulouse, Mark McKenzie. I actually thought he played quite well. I haven't been able to watch him too much. He seemed to be more of a deep ball threat. He was really sending kind of balls in over the top. They weren't super accurate, but I think maybe it is nice just to have one guy who can play deep. Another depth center back. Often broke his line, which actually worked out quite well for us. And then when he did create those turnovers, I thought he was really comfortable on the ball. Just his long ball ability, at least from what I saw today, wasn't the most accurate at times, which is a little concerning. But again, good rotational guy. I think he definitely is serviceable. Kind of maybe unlike the past couple of guys I've talked, I think maybe you could expect to see him, and I wouldn't be too upset, honestly, if we did, as long as he can get those passing accuracies, a little better.
Yeah, totally. I think that he's a good player. The one thing I like about him, I never watch him play for his club, but whenever he plays for the national team, which is pretty frequently, the one thing I like about him is you kind of know what you're going to get out of him before the game even starts. He's going to be a good 1v1 defender. He's going to go for those long balls. He's going to, you can't trust him to make any incredible stops or, anything great. And you can't expect the best distribution out of him, but he's a very average player, but he's consistently average. And when we need three center backs and the quality isn't completely there for a lot of our center backs, I think it wouldn't be crazy to start him. And I don't know if that would be at the right center back or something like that, but I don't hate him. I think he's a good player. And I appreciate the fact that he is so consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, another kind of depth, wing back, I guess. He's been called a wild card, like a tactical wild card at times, is Max Orfson from the Columbus Crew. Probably, one of the most American players in this lineup, I suppose. He went to UC Davis for 3 years.
Yeah.
So through the NCAA and then right to the MLS. So, I guess cool story that maybe the American developmental system isn't all dead yet. Although that's a conversation for another day that needs a massive revamp. But from the stuff I've read about him, I don't think he appeared today. If he did, it was very briefly or didn't do much. So I don't believe he did, but I heard he's a smart player, really high IQ off the ball, which, it's always a positive no matter kind of what system you play in. So, again, would not expect him to be seen in this World Cup.
Yeah, especially given the fact that it's Anthony Robinson that he's competing for minutes with. Just no reason to give him any minutes at all, save an injury. But I think he's a good player. Like you said, homegrown talent, which is great. It's good to see some guys coming out of the MLS like that. I'd love to see him move to Europe at some point. He's a young guy still, so. But I have, when he does play for the U.S., I think that he is. He's a talented player. He's honestly, in my opinion, better going forward than he is defensively, and that's kind of how Columbus Crew use him. They can use him as a winger. They can use him as an outside mid with ample defensive support behind him. So I do think that he is a good player. I just don't think I don't think he should be getting any minutes here. But I'd be happy to see him in this U.S. Team, and as he gets older and maybe gets a move to Europe, he deserves a little more minutes. But he is who he is right now.
Yeah, and I think you can really say the same thing about our next guy here, Alex Freeman from Villarreal. Fun fact, he's actually the son of Antonio Freeman, Packers wide receiver, also Super Bowl champion. Funny how things work out. But again, this guy's gonna be backing up Dest at times. I actually really like him. He's kind of like a Destin and Anthony Robinson, where he's super versatile and can be a really, attacking threat. He's got, great engine, great stamina, can really do it all day. So, if he did make an appearance, I definitely wouldn't mind. Will he? I don't think so. Just with, Dest's kind of solidified starting position, but still a great player in his own respect, and, got good minutes for Villarreal this season. So, La Liga games are always definitely a plus, when translating to the World Cup.
Yeah. I think he's a good player, but you said it all. There's no competing with Dest in that outside wingback position. So, I think good player, but should be Dest all the way.
Yeah. All right, I guess we'll move into midfielders and forwards now. We're more than halfway done, which is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. But right, obviously, I guess we could kind of start near the midfield. We already been talking about him, Tyler Adams.
Yeah.
Just absolute, demon on the ball and off the ball, honestly. Like, great. He was wreaking havoc today in that middle third, ball recoveries all over the place, forcing turnovers, getting our transition going. He captained us, obviously at the last World Cup. So a respected player, played well for Bournemouth. They're going to Europe next season. So, he played definitely a big role there, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I've loved watching him in the Prem this year. I think that Prem move it was scary at first to see him go from the very familiar Bundesliga into the Prem, which is a very different style of play. But he's lived up to the challenge, and he's been a great player for them. I will say he's such a solid, consistent player so long as he can stay healthy. And as we said, bringing 4 midfielders in a 26-man roster makes me nervous, considering how quickly the talent drops off when it comes to Roldan and Berhalter. I don't want to see them getting consistent minutes at the World Cup. And if Tyler Adams gets injured, that's who his backups are. So it's just it makes me nervous. But fantastic player. Hoping he can stay healthy because he plays every minute of every game when he does. As far as the captaincy goes, I don't know what your opinions are on this, but Ream versus Adams, I would have liked to see Adams, especially given the fact that he needs to be starting every minute, versus Ream, who maybe it's questionable if he starts or not. I would have loved to see Adams get the armband, but I'm not sure what your opinions on that are.
I agree. I would have preferred Adams. I mean, to what you said, he'll be on the pitch, hopefully, for the full 90 for every game we play, unlike Ream, who, may or may not really be there. I think still all you have to do is you can still bring Ream, give Adams the captaincy, and Ream can still act as a veteran presence. I don't think he needs that armband. I, again, would have preferred to see Adams. It makes me think that if, obviously Ream being named captain, that he probably maybe will be getting real starts, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure, someone's got to wear the band on the field. So I'm not the biggest fan of it. Don't hate it. Just would have preferred Adams, especially just, with the previous experience from 2022. But I mean, this dude's also basically like a linchpin on defensive transitions. Like, he locks down our midfield and just brings us really tight. We saw that today, and he's very good at stopping these fast breaks that, we quite frankly were giving up quite a lot today with errant turnovers and whatnot. But like you said, we left Tanner Tessmann and Aidan Morris off this roster. I don't think there's a like for like replacement. There's nobody that plays exactly like him. If he goes down or if he gets a red, he's an aggressive player. He makes hard tackles. He's a, fiery guy. Wouldn't shock me if, he got into card trouble. But if you have to replace him, there's nobody that does exactly what he does. There's guys who can do bits and pieces of what he does, but there's not one player who is exactly like him. And that's maybe who I kind of thought would, where a Tessmann or a Morris would benefit from being brought. But I guess we will see. It's easy to, speak now, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a fantastic player. As you said, I mean, the number of times where fast breaks, and he's been like this forever, club and country, but the number of fast breaks that he just kills on the spot and, gets the ball going the other direction is fantastic. He's a great player to watch. He's the type of player that if you were a 6, he's the type of guy I'd want to be watching, because he's such a fantastic, ball hawking 6 who just knows how to get a ball and knows how to, make transitions work and get plays started going the other direction. I think he's an incredible player. Hoping to see a great World Cup out of him.
I do hope so too, as well as counterpart here, Weston McKennie from Juve. This will be our number 8. This is our box to box guy. I think he excels really well in club and country doing exactly this. One thing I love about him is he is great with his delayed runs. He finds himself unmarked in dangerous areas so often just because he waits a second or two before, making that break or making that run. And it's quite hard for opposing defenders and defensive midfielders to really pick up on what he's doing after, they're already dealing with, perhaps runs from Pulisic or whoever it may be. So I'm excited to see even on set pieces, like he does a really good job of these delayed runs. So that's why I'm really excited to see this guy, plus the fact that he's an excellent, I think, box to box midfielder. I think he should have a great World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen him play a few times for Juve, and I've read a lot of comments, especially when it comes to Aidan Morris and Tanner Tessmann not making the lineup. One thing that people seem to be saying over and over, and I do agree with this take, is that McKennie is such a fantastic player when he does not have a true position that he's locked into. When you're playing the 8, you have a lot of defensive responsibilities. There's things you have to do. You have to get back, track back, mark men in the midfield. And Weston McKennie excels at Juve when he does not have those responsibilities, when he can be a roaming player, when he can find himself between lines, when he can, end up on the far right flank and then end up, playing as a second striker, when he can roam and when he can find himself in random positions throughout the field, he can be a fantastic player and really shows quality. And when you don't take another 8 or another quality 8 who's not Berhalter or Roldan, it really it limits his ability to impact the game, because he is playing that, not to say that he can't be a fantastic 8, but I would have loved to see him be a free 10 or, an 8 with less defensive responsibilities paired up alongside somebody like Tanner Tessmann. But still excited to see him play, and hopefully that Poch can work out some way to still get his creativity into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with everything said there. Now we have Gino Reyna. I'm a little mixed, obviously playing for Borussia Mönchengladbach, or however you would pronounce that.
Yeah.
Because I definitely did not. But I mean, everybody knows about the Reyna and, his dad and all the influence and drama that took place in past years. Definitely not in the form he was at Dortmund. He did play all right today. He wasn't, there wasn't any moment in today's game against Senegal where you were like, oh my God, like this is horrible. But I just think he holds the ball for too long. Like instead of, one touch off the feet or one touch, it really seems always like it's 3 touches, 4 touches, and then dumping the ball to the wing where there's no real attacking threat or anything besides going backwards. And it was kind of tough to watch today just because I felt like he was really killing our attack in a lot of areas. We'll see what kind of role he has because like I thought, we'll get to him next, but I thought Malik Tillman played miles better than Reyna today. But again, with the influence Claudio Reyna has, who knows what's going to happen. But I can't say I've been impressed with Reyna recently.
Yeah. Gio Reyna is a player who I always thought was going to be something fantastic. He was going to be something special for the U.S. He's been starting since he was 17, but just hasn't worked out for him at club, and that's clearly starting to affect. For a couple of years, he could be poor performer at the club level, but still show up at the country level. I think it's really starting to show. His lack of minutes has really affected his sharpness, and I don't know. I don't see him starting. As you said, Tillman's a fantastic player. I'd love to see Tillman, if not starting, be the fourth option attacker, because I think that where he is right now, he's just a better player. I think Reyna needs to get his act together at the club level and figure out his family stuff too, because I don't know. He's such a great talent to be wasting it in this kind of way. It was so unfortunate that he didn't get minutes when he was kind of at the top of his game last World Cup 4 years ago, but he's just a different player now, and it's for the worse, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well said. We'll see if he can return to that form. Definitely not there now. Again, right, Malik Tillman from Bayer Leverkusen, I think should be one of our starting attacking midfielders, definitely over Reyna. Like he wins the ball back so well in the attacking third, whether it's a cross that was blocked or a shot blocked, and you see a Senegalese midfielder kind of breaking up the field. Like today, he had at least 3 tackles where he immediately won the ball back and kept pressure on in that attacking third. And I think that's what makes Tillman so valuable. He thrives really well in like these high intensity systems, like with aggressive presses, which we kind of saw today. Which is, I think, even more the reason that he should get the nod.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been a fan of Tillman since the Gold Cup. He was one of the highest quality players that we brought in last summer, and he was absolutely fantastic. I hadn't followed him very much up until then, but I was a huge fan after that. I think he really carried that team. And as you said, I think there's a very good argument to be made that he starts. He's a quality player. He's just very solid technically, and what I love is that he can play. He had really good exchanges with Dest. Or was he still on the pitch when Dest was there?
No, because I think he came in the second half, and I think Dest had already been.
Whoever that wingback was, I think he when he plays in those half spaces, he's a fantastic player because he likes to play more centrally, and he's definitely not a wide out winger. But I think that would pair really well with what Dest has to offer is like a very attack minded touchline type of player who gets all the way out wide and kind of lets you take advantage of the midfield. And that's where Tillman kind of plays at his best, is when he's playing as sort of a 10 or a half space type of player. So I'm excited to see what comes out of Tillman this World Cup. I think that he's one of the reasons that I have so much more faith in our offensive capabilities this World Cup than we did last World Cup, because it was just all Pulisic last World Cup. And I'm happy to see the guys like Tillman and then Balogun as well really make themselves known, because it would be fantastic to see some players other than Pulisic making good offensive plays.
Yeah, I mean, and Tillman plays excellent off like either true nines or even high wingers like Pulisic or Balogun or whoever he's going to be working with. And I think it was Freeman on the right side today, but I might be mistaken. But yeah, it did look good with him. I'm going to let you go here on Christian Roldan, because you keep alluding to him and not the best way.
Yeah, I think as far as controversies and talk on the internet goes, Roldan has been a name that consistently comes up as the first guy that everyone seems to be wondering, why is he on this roster? Poch did come out with a statement. He said something like, Roldan is the most coachable player, type of guy that you want on your roster. I understand that. And I understand that it's good to have some locker room guys in there, but there's no reason for Roldan to be on this roster when a guy like Tanner Tessmann is going home. He's just not, he's MLS quality. He's a fine player, but I don't see him on this roster, and I don't quite understand why he's here.
Yeah, every write-up I've found, it just calls him like a glue guy or like a late game closer, a leadership guy. And I guess those are good attributes you would want on locker room players. But I mean, I think perhaps, I guess it'll change, but I think right now, especially based off past performances, if you're the U.S., right, like the farthest we've ever made it was beating Mexico in the round of 16, and that was in 2002, right? That was 24 years ago. I don't think we're in a position to be taking worse quality players just for chemistry when I think we need all the quality we can get. And, for exactly what you said, I can't see why Roldan was picked here, right? Like MLS quality, plays for the Sounders. He's all right, I suppose. He definitely won't be getting any time on the pitch, but that's just not what we need. We need people who can go on the pitch if needed. And if he's needed to go on, I don't think he can. I don't think he will.
I don't trust him out there. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Definitely a little disappointing. Another Nepo baby, Sebastian Berhalter.
Yeah.
Just like Reyna, I suppose. I was actually pretty impressed with how he played today. It was a little frantic at times, but I mean, I thought he showed good ball winning ability, and I thought good composure, kind of drifting in and out of the midfield. Will he get real minutes? Like, I think it could be a possibility, right? If it comes down to that, especially with how thin spread that midfield room is right now.
Yeah.
So I don't think I wouldn't. I think he's serviceable. I wouldn't mind it. I don't think I want him necessarily getting those minutes, but if he did, I think I'd be okay with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I think Berhalter is a guy that he gets a lot of hate, and some of it's deserved. I think that, again, like, he's an MLS quality player. I do think that he has really strong work rates, though. I don't hate him when he's in the team. I think that he offers a little bit of something with the work rates. You know, his ability. He's not a player who's noticeably lagging behind the rest of the starting 11, which is what I would expect to see from Roldan. So I'm less upset about him being in the lineup. I will say, though, and I heard in a write-up somebody talk about this, you got to feel bad for Aidan Morris. He went out to Middlesbrough, I think it was 2 seasons ago. And the reason that he was at Middlesbrough, or he's at Middlesbrough now, is because there was such a push a couple of years ago that the U.S. men's national team basically said, like, you got to get to Europe. You got to get to Europe because you're not going to be, you know, this team quality if you can't be playing in a top 7 or 8 league in Europe. And so that's exactly what Aidan Morris did. And he went to just barely missed out on promotion to the Prem a couple of days ago, which is unfortunate, but he's been a top quality player for Middlesbrough. And you got to feel bad for him because he did everything right. He went to Europe. He got into a good league. He's on a great team. Contending for the Premier League. I'm sure he'll be contending again next year. He's a quality player, and you got to feel bad because he must be looking at the guys like Berhalter and Roldan on this lineup who are here despite sitting comfortably at their, in their MLS clubs that they've been at for years. And, he's got to be thinking to himself, should I have just stayed in the MLS, taken the higher salary and sat around and expected a call up? Because I don't think it's fair to him that he's left off the roster when he did everything that was expected of him and more. He's a quality player. I think he's better than both Berhalter and Roldan. So you really got to feel bad for him. And it really raises questions about some of the decision-making here. I think this being the biggest scenario where it's like, kind of, like, what more can he do? He's a great player. He showed great things, and he went to Europe, which is exactly what was asked of him. And here he is, not in the World Cup, but
yeah, I mean, I didn't actually know that. That's pretty horrible. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I guess that is apparent. Like, there has been a shift within the institution that is basically like, get to Europe if you want, real minutes, right? We have eight of the 26 players now are from the MLS. That's the lowest total since 2010, where we brought 4. But any of our rosters really have averaged around basically like 11 to 13. So that 4 is kind of an outlier. So, I mean, I definitely hear what you're saying about, the push for Europe. But yeah, I mean, I have to agree based off what you just said. And, you still got to think that Berhalter has some sort of influence within U.S. Soccer Federation that, maybe gave him the slight leg up. But yeah, I think you got to feel bad for Morris, no doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I do like the push towards Europe. I think that the MLS can be a fantastic league, but as of right now, where it stands, it's a fantastic development league. We see guys like Arston, guys like Aidan Morris, a lot of the players in our roster, maybe not a lot, but a few of them started out in the MLS, and even some started out in NCAA. And I think that the natural progression as it is right now is, you play NCAA for a couple of years, you make it onto an MLS team, you're a grassroots player, and then you spend a year or 2 in the MLS before you head to Europe. And that is the progression, and it should be the progression. And so when guys like Berhalter, take pay raises to stay at their hometown clubs and end up getting the call up over a guy who does everything by the book and takes himself to Europe for better opportunity, even will take a pay cut in the process, I think it's so unfortunate. And it has to be confusing to be one of those players who's left off the roster for that reason.
Yeah, gotta agree. I think we need to start pushing as many of our guys towards Europe as possible, right? If you want to, even if you want to contend with CONMEBOL or CONCACAF, whatever it may be, not even on the world stage, like, you need that level of quality, and definitely moving in the right place. But yeah, feel bad for him, no doubt. I guess we'll kind of move on to our attacking mids or forwards now. Obviously, main man Christian Pulisic scored his first goal today for the national team since November of 2024. He's really been on a pretty dry streak. So I got to say today's performance, the goal and the assist, especially I was linking up with Pepe, was awesome. It was refreshing to see that. Because, I mean, you remember at one point he was basically one of the best players in Serie A. I think he had 56
absolutely.
goal involvements, and I think the only person who had more goal involvements might have been Lautaro Martinez at the time. And then he really just kind of had hit this slump. And, today was definitely flashes of, the old Pulisic that, the true Captain America that everybody has made him out to be. And it was, Senegal's AFCON, the true AFCON champions, right? Quality side, doing it against competition, early in the first half when more starters were in is, definitely a breath of fresh air, especially, for the long goal drought he's had.
Yeah, absolutely. Pulisic is a fantastic player, and there's never, when he's healthy, there's never a question about will he start or not. But it is good to get a little bit of confirmation, as you said, his first goal involvement or first goal for the U.S. and however long that is, over a year. I think it's good to see that he's still the Pulisic that we know him to be, and it's good to see that the slump maybe from the club team won't be following him into this World Cup. At least what it looked like from what we saw out of him today. I think. That's good for us. I think the better Pulisic is, the better this team will be, because as the best player, we play up to that quality. So I'm excited to see what comes out of this, and I'm excited to see him at the World Cup.
Yeah, I think this is one of our biggest, threats on attack. That's not a nuanced take by any means. So when he's firing on all cylinders like he was today, I think opposing teams are scared. He's so good when he's on his game and with one-on-one battles or finding that half space. Like we said, we'll get to Pepe in a second, but him and Pepe were just a dynamic duo today.
Fantastic.
That was awesome to see. So I also wouldn't have minded him getting the captaincy, right? He captained for the first time when he was 20. He's obviously kind of like the face of our team, for lack of a better term. So, definitely an interesting decision with whether him, not Adams, giving it to Ream. But yeah, if he's back, he's back. And, if you're a fan of the USMNT, this has to fire you up, no doubt.
Without a doubt. Yeah, totally.
All right, we got Tim Way from Olympic. Great player. He played a really big role in 2022, on that right wing. He's really good at stretching back lines, which I think really plays into kind of the system Poch has. And I think even players like below him, like McKennie, or whether it be Reyna or Tillman, whoever it may be, it gives them, he's kind of like a Jedi Robinson, which just gives other players, especially in the midfield, just so much more space to work. Also, I think he's a pretty clinical finisher when he finds the ball at his feet, although it's not super often. But, obviously no complaints here. Love Tim Way.
Yeah, I've loved him for a while. His goal against Wales, the first U.S. goal in the World Cup in 2022. He's a great player to watch. His career has had a little bit of ups and downs, but I think it's been mainly ups. And I don't know. I would love to see how he competes with Malik Tillman for that, right-sided winger spot. I would love to see some competition there, because I think they're both great players. Love the fact that Way can slot in as sort of a wing back as well. I think that gives him that versatility that could, when rosters get stretched thin and you're into the later games in the World Cup, that could be a huge asset as injuries pile up and things like that. But I'd love to see where the two of them go. Love to see where he goes this World Cup. There's an argument to be made that he starts. It just kind of depends on numbers and who slots in where. So, yeah, I'm excited for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's also got these great, he kind of spams crosses into the box, especially those low hard hit ones.
Yeah, but that's kind of what you I love to see that. Not many other players are doing that, and sometimes it's so frustrating to watch a game and nobody's putting anything into the box. It's too pretty of football, and then finally you get a guy like Way who just puts the ball in the box, and that's what you need sometimes.
Yeah, just absolutely smashes balls into the 6-yard box. Also, just sprints basically all the time. I don't think that dude ever jogged. So great guy to have. Now we got Balogun, who, playing for Monaco, obviously should have basically had a hat trick today. Hit the post, got scored, but called offside, and then finally bagged his goal. I love Balogun. He's kind of like the similar style to like a Holland, just like a right place, right time, not super flashy, but you put the ball at his feet in a dangerous position and, it's probably going in the back of the net. I think he's a brilliant player. He rarely shoots from, I guess, what you would call like low probability errors where it's either like a no angle shot or there's lots of defenders in front of him. So, when he kind of lets one fly, that there's a high chance of that ending up in the back of the net. And he was just class today. I mean, I think he was I guess well, I haven't had this problem when talking about the national team in a minute, but I mean, there were so many good attackers today.
Yeah.
I might have been, I guess, the third or second, maybe behind Pepe or Pulisic. Maybe they're all on equal level, but played a great, true 9 position today. And, I think he's going to excel at the World Cup.
Yeah. Balogun is just so technical, so gifted in a way that very few players on this team are. Pulisic is probably the only other player that comes to mind when it comes to just like true football ability. Balogun is up there. And it's so great to watch him play because that brings something new to this team that we don't have a lot of. And as you said, it's a good problem to have that we have so many attackers, but I'm having more fun watching this team on offense that I have in a very long time. I think at times it can be painful. At the 2022 World Cup, it was painful to watch us try and develop and, make something happen when we have 1 or 2 guys who we trust with the ball. Now we have a plethora of guys that I would love to see with the ball at their feet in that offensive third. So, and Balogun is without a doubt one of them. And so, great player. Pepe and him are such good players. I would love to see them both on the pitch at the same time, but I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess we can get right to Pepe now. Also for PSV, Eindhoven, he, already said it, linked up with Pulisic today. Like, it was beautiful. I really would like to see him if he's not going to get into the starting 11, at least give him serious minutes. He's such a clinical finisher. I think he's really developed since, he's last been on the big stage, whether, Gold Cup, Copa America in 2024, whatever it may be. But, clinical finisher inside the box, we'll take it off the one touch. Like, he's not afraid to shoot, which you kind of said that with Way. It's kind of refreshing to see people take chances on offense and, really try and create something for themselves. So I think Pepe does an exceptional job in that respect.
Yeah, without a doubt. Ricardo Pepe he's such a good, as you said with Balogun just kind of being like a right place, right time type of guy. I think even more so, Pepe is just like, he always seems to be making the right run. The ball seems to find him somehow. Loved his runs into the channel. Both of our first 2 goals came from his runs going outside into those channels. I think that's again something so refreshing to see is 9 making intelligent decisions. I loved watching him today. And I just don't know how the battle is going to break down between Balogun and Pepe, but it's a very good problem to have because they're both quality 9s. If Balogun could even play as an outside winger or a 10 behind him supporting him, I would love to see Pepe in that true 9 spot because he's just so quality.
Yeah, I mean, we already said it, but it's been a long time since the U.S. has had a problem where you just have 2 players who are so exceptional that you really don't know who you're going to start. And it's almost like you're, like the suffering from success, I suppose. But he, had the assist today and then had the hockey assist on that first goal where he played Pulisic through like beautiful ball vision where he found Des. Yeah. So, excellent stuff coming out of him, no doubt. Moving on, we have Brennan Aronson from Leeds. Again, he's kind of got, I feel like, a similar path to maybe like a Reina or whatnot. They're really high expectations when he was younger. Hasn't really panned out, I would say. Has really kind of only played championship football, the Medford Messi, as they call him. Yeah. But I think he'll be a good, I think he'll get minutes kind of rotating in on the wing or maybe up top, just maybe in, once it hits the 80th minute or whatever, like when you need that last burst of spazzy energy, I think he can give that to you. So, I would expect him to see minutes for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. His work rate is incredible. I think I love him when he plays the wing because he presses the ball like nobody else does. And like you said, he's definitely not a guy who's in the starting conversation, but he's a fantastic, like burst of energy when you need it most. And I think, again, like these are the type of guys we need in World Cup runs. We need guys who do not give up, guys who can come in the 85th minute and, win a ball on tired legs. I think that he's a great player. I think he's turned his career around. I think he had some trouble at Leeds originally, but he's back with Leeds in the Prem. They're doing well. They stayed up comfortably this year. And I'm a fan of him. I think that he's proved his haters wrong at Leeds, and I think he has the ability to do something special at this World Cup. I think that, if he can really commit to his role as a player, I think that he can be a great player.
Yeah, even when he was at Norwich too, definitely flashes there. And then I think he was at Union Berlin for a short time as well. But moving on, we got Haji Wright. I love Haji Wright. He's got like the classic, like he's probably our biggest forward, does really well with the hold-up play. He was absolutely class for Coventry in the championship. Basically, the reason they got promoted. He said, I think he scored 18 goals, and that was a single season record for Coventry. Obviously, probably won't be starting, but definitely will be seeing the pitch. And I really hope he does, because I think he is just an absolutely fantastic player. Like, I think there's no sugarcoating it. Just, again, great problem to have that we have, depth and places where it feels like we really haven't in recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the type of guy, 90th minute, and you're losing by a goal in a knockout game. He's the type of guy you bring in for a center back and just spam balls into the box and hope that I think he's 6'4", 6'5", something like that. He's a big player. He can win balls out of the air. He has serious aerial presence. I think that he's going to be somebody that, if he can find his role within the team, and even if that might not be a starter, I think that he'll be a huge asset to this team. I think even though he's not starting, he'll bring a lot, and it'll be really good to see.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been here before. He scored our lone goal against the Netherlands in the round of 16 in 2022. So he's had World Cup minutes. I think he's ready for it. He, again, like I said, excelled in the championship this year. So excited to see what he brings for us. But rounding out, we have Alejandro Zendejas from Club America. He was absolutely putrid today.
You texted me one thing before this podcast, and it was Zendejas's buns.
Yeah, it was funny. And that was directly after. So if you guys watched the game today, basically one of the Senegalese, like either outside backs or someone on the back line, because it was the last line of defense, just played a horribly misplaced pass, like right into Zendejas's shin. He probably had about a 10-yard head start between. It was literally Senegalese defender 10 yards behind him, Zendejas with the ball, and just open field in the goal in front of him. And he started at half field, and by the time he reached the 18, he'd been hawked down, shot blocked. And, I'm just like, oh my God. And, and then for the rest of the game, he did nothing impressive. And it was just a real doozy to watch this guy go to work. So, I mean, I really doubt you're going to see any real minutes from him. Like, I think you're always going to pick a guy like Haji Wright, or even an Aronson, obviously Pepe or Balogun, whoever it chooses to be that sub off the bench. But yeah, Zendejas, definitely not a fan of him.
Yeah, totally. And he's a guy that I don't watch a lot. He plays at Club America that he plays for. I don't watch him a lot, but I've heard good things about him. So I was excited coming into this game that he was going to do something special, prove himself, maybe make an argument that he's a good second tier forward on this roster, and just wasn't very good today. Hopefully he's able to turn it around and prove why he's here. But just unfortunate that he's clearly not at this level yet, which is unfortunate. But at the end of the day, 26-man roster. Hopefully he doesn't see the pitch, and we move with that.
Yeah, and he's played well against lower tier sides, definitely in Liga MX, and then kind of in Conem Ball affairs. But we played a good side in Senegal today, and that's kind of even Senegal's like A and B team mixed together, and he looked absolutely putrid. So I don't expect to see too much from him. All right, moving on. We've kind of been alluding to this, but we're going for our top snubs. I brought two. I'll start with Yunus Musa, solidified starter from the 2022 World Cup lineup in the midfield, dropped by Poch. I perhaps maybe can see why. Like Reyna, I think he maybe takes a little bit too much time on the ball and relies too much on himself to carry that ball forward rather than, the rapid circulation that Poch likes to play. But I mean, that does not matter when you bring four midfielders.
Yeah, exactly.
So if anybody goes down in the midfield, I'm not calling for Musa to be a starter, but like when Adams goes down or McKinney or whoever, I think Yunus Musa slots right in. He played pretty well for Milan this year, I would say, in the minutes he got. And when I saw he didn't make this, I was absolutely shocked. I was like, that is horrible. So definitely very disappointing that Musa's not in this lineup for me.
Especially, again, as you mentioned, bringing four midfielders. You can't make the argument that there wasn't enough space because there clearly was. There's no reason for Robinson to be in this lineup. There's no reason for a couple of these defenders to be in this lineup when players like Yunus Musa are not getting the call, or when players like Berhalter and Roldan are our second choice midfielders. I just think that guys like Musa need to be here. And I do understand. I think supposedly what people are saying is he fell off a little bit. I haven't watched Milan in a while. I got frustrated when Pulisic started playing terribly, but supposedly he fell off a little bit. Second half of the season, he wasn't getting a lot of minutes. And when he was, it was pretty terrible, but still he's a proven player. He's a quality player. He's been a locked-in starter for the U.S. for a long time. It was a huge deal when he came over to the U.S. over England, and I just feel bad. It's an unfortunate situation. I don't think he necessarily needs to be on this roster, but when guys like Berhalter and Roldan are, there's there's a good argument for him being upset as to why he's not here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who'd you bring to the table?
Yeah, as far as the biggest snub, and this is one who comes up a lot, Diego Luna is the type of guy who, it's so funny because you look at the ads for the U.S. jerseys on the internet, and the guy repping them is Diego Luna. He's very much the guy that the MLS marketing team has pushed as the face of MLS at the U.S. national level. For him to not get a call up, I wasn't as mad about this until I saw how poorly Zendejas played, and then I was like, all right, so what was the point of taking a risk on Zendejas for it to not pan out if we could have had the proven guy who's a really gritty player come in, who's already proven himself at the national team level? I just think that there's no reason why Diego Luna's not here. I understand, again, and here I am talking about how the guys in the MLS should get to Europe, but Diego Luna's a special type of player who brings something that very few other players do. Again, I'm not arguing for him to be a starter like you said about Musa, but I think he's got to be here. He's got to be making a statement on this team because, I don't know, Zendejas is the first man out in my opinion, and it should be him instead.
Yeah, I mean, this is my guy. My second and last guy I was bringing was also Luna, and I, obviously agree with everything you said, especially the marketing aspect. I just feel bad for him, but even a lot of people are like, well, Luna's kind of just an MLS, fodder depth guy, blah, blah, blah. Like, he would just be a glue guy anyway. But, when you take Christian Roldan to be a glue guy and do exactly that, I just think Diego Luna's better. And, in kind of every aspect. And, they do play slightly different positions, I suppose. But really, Roldan's not going to see the field. So I don't see why you wouldn't take a guy like Luna over him. So definitely a little sad because, he is a character and definitely an entertaining player to have. And, I think if you're going to pick any glue guy to waste a spot on, and to waste a spot on's lack of a better term, but I think you got to go with Diego Luna, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Loved watching him at the Gold Cup along with Tillman. I thought he was just such a good player. I think he showed a fight that I haven't seen out of a U.S. player in a long time. So just a little disappointed that he's not here.
Absolutely.
My second snub, I already talked about Aidan Morris, so I guess I'll talk a little more on Tanner Tessmann because I think he and Aidan Morris are kind of both the guys that from a midfield standpoint, there's huge questions about why both of them, if not at least one of them, is not on this roster. I think I was reading through articles that have Tanner Tessmann starting for this team a couple weeks ago, and so for him to not even make the 26-man cut is a brutal take, in my opinion. Again, similar situation. He's a guy who plays in Europe, and not only in the second division of England, but he's for is it Lyon that he plays for? He's in France, I'm pretty sure.
I believe so, yes.
First-rate league, great player. He's been so consistent for them. He's got 50-some starts, and he's been consistent all season long. Lyon are in great shape in the French league, so there's just no reason not to have such a consistent, well-respected European quality player not making, at the very least, this 26-man roster, if not arguing for a starting spot on it. And when it plays into so many other things that we talked about with McKennie not having that freeing role, because now he's going to be locked into the 8 role. We have a great 8, and his name's Tanner Tessmann. So I'm just confused as to why he's not here.
Yeah, absolutely baffling. This was our 2024 U.S. Young Male Player of the Year in the Federation. So that was literally 2 years ago. And then this January, I don't know if you remember, but Atleti put in a bid for Tessmann in the range of like 25 million euro, and it was rejected by Lyon, which obviously speaks to the quality that he has. That obviously they want to hold on to him because he's a valuable asset. So seeing him not in this lineup is absolutely mind-boggling, no doubt. No doubt about it. Very frustrating.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So ending off the show here, which has definitely been a long run, we're going to quickly go through kind of the group stage predictions, and then what we think, the floor and the ceiling is for this team. So obviously match 1, we're playing Paraguay June 12th in SoFi Stadium. We talked about this earlier, but this is a CONMEBOL team who is just very scrappy. It's gonna be a very, very physical, like chippy game. Most of their qualifying games, they let the other team have around 65 to 70% of ball possession. Yeah. It's kind of like an Arsenal where it's like I think this might be a pretty low scoring game that's going to get dragged out into, they're going to try and drag us down to their level. We definitely have more quality than them, no doubt about that. But it's really a question of, can we avoid this trap game or not?
Yeah, totally. And you said it is completely right. A trap game. They're going to be such a scrappy team. There's going to be some cards. There's going to be, some pushing, some shoving. And it's all about, can these boys find a way to get that goal in? Because if you score a goal, you score 2 goals. We just beat them 2-1 very recently. I think that this is a game that we should win. And this is a game that if Pochettino has the control of the locker room, we will win, but it's very much going to be a test to the character of this team, because they're a scrappy team for sure.
Yeah, these, if you watch any South American football, these teams will just, lose their heads and happily take you down with them. So we really can't fall into that. I think, I'm predicting, I want to say it's either going to be a 2-1 or 1-0 win for the U.S., hopefully. I think also a draw is very possible, just the way this plays, but I really think we have the quality, and I think with Poch that, we can pull this out. And I think it's a tough first game, in my opinion, to open the World Cup with a team as aggressive and snappy as Paraguay. But I really do think we can get the job done, and I hope we do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to go with 1-0 final score. I think it's going to be a scrappy game. I think the goal is going to come late, but I'm confident that it will come, and I trust in these guys. As we said, our offense is so good. If they can get 65% possession against Paraguay, which is very likely, like, something's going to happen. Someone's going to get an opportunity, and if we can be clinical, I think it'll be 1-0 USA.
Absolutely. Match 2, we're playing Australia on the 19th in Seattle. So obviously Seattle's one of, the most, I think the one of the rowdiest fan, sects of the country. So having this home field is going to be absolutely awesome. Australia is, I think, a very underrated team. I think Chris Richards needs to be healthy for this game. And I think Tyler Adams needs to be on his game, because if we can, disrupt their midfield, turn them over, they really thrive on set pieces and transition. They don't really thrive too well in open play. So I think, if Richards can be there to handle the set pieces and Adams can be there to bog down or at least slow down that transition, I think the U.S. can pull out of here with a 2-0 win, I'm going to say, especially in front of this home Seattle crowd, which is going to be loud, obviously, in that Seahawks stadium, which is designed for, for noise, right? So I think the U.S. is just going to hopefully outman Australia here and get it done, but really need Adams and Richards to be healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said it. I think that I'm so excited for this game because of that Seahawks stadium is awesome, and it's gonna be a great atmosphere. It's gonna be, I would hope, the highest concentration of American fans in the audience. So I'm really excited for this game. I think that I will say that I think that given some of the holes that we have in our defense and some of the questions around who our defenders are going to be starting at the World Cup, I will say I think Paraguay is the only shutout we're going to have all World Cup. So if we're going to win games, we're going to have to score goals. And I think that this game is going to be 3-1 to the U.S., but I think Australia is going to, I think we're going to look shaky at times. And this is going to be one of those games where you look back on where it's like, all right, did you notice the holes? Did you adjust to things that went wrong? And how did you go from there? Because if we can adjust well, and if we can understand that we'll give up a goal or two every game, but, we trust in our offense and we trust in the game plan, I think that this one will go to the U.S. and we'll have a really good foundation for the next couple games.
Yeah, absolutely. And then right off that Australia game, 6 days later, on the 25th, back in SoFi, we're taking on Turkey, who I think is definitely the toughest team that we're going to face in this group, in my opinion, led by Adra Güler, of course, and then Hakan from Inter Milan. I think this Turkey team has a lot of quality. They have performed pretty well, especially in qualifiers and then past international tournaments. It has to, I think the key to this game is the U.S. has to slow it down, especially with that midfield. Turkey loves to play like a fast and frantic, ping the ball around and really just go, 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 go. And I think if we can and I'm not saying slow them down, I'm saying just the entire game, just let the game relax a little bit. I think Turkey will struggle with that. That being said, I think, I think Turkey's a quality side. I think it's gonna end in a draw. I'd guess maybe 1-1 or a 2-2. It's gonna be back and forth. Finishing the group hopefully with 2 wins and a draw, just like probably Turkey would be, and we both go through, would be ideal. I just think, this third game might catch up to us a little bit, especially whether everybody's fitness can remain. But I think it'll be a good draw that'll, push both teams to the round of 32 now is.
Yeah, totally. This is absolutely not the game that you want to go into needing a win to advance to the next stage. Yeah. I think if we stumble against Paraguay and or Australia, this could be disastrous for us, because this is not a team that, if you're frantic and you need a win, Turkey's the type of team who's not going to let that happen. They'll either beat you or the game will be so chaotic that it'll end in a draw, like you said. And I think that we need to secure every point that we can before this game, because without a doubt we can win, but it has to be coming from a calm style of play, so I don't know. This is the type of game that makes me nervous if we're dropping points elsewhere. But at the end of the day, I think it'll be a goal fest. I think both teams will hopefully at this point have already qualified for the next round, and I think that some subs will make it into the game and it'll end 3-3 would be my prediction. I think a lot of goals. Turkey are a great side, really strong offensive players, but I trust in our team and our offense to get it done too.
Yeah, really well said. And I think that just makes that Paraguay game all the more important. It's just, that's not a game where you can drop points against a side like Paraguay, because, you just said it, 4 times. If we go into this third game needing a result of some kind, I just don't think that's going to be a good place to be in. So
Yeah.
I think it'll, should be good back and forth. I hope it doesn't come to that. As for, the floor and the ceiling here, right? A lot of people are panicking. They're like, we're getting grouped, like blah, blah, blah. I think that rhetoric might have changed after what people saw today against Senegal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think, perhaps a little ambitious. I say the floor here is obviously not getting grouped and making it to that round of 32. And, the ceiling for this side, it's so difficult because we've never seen a World Cup like this with 48 teams. You now have a round of 32 before then the 16th and then the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
I think the US could easily find themselves, in a quarterfinal, I think as wild as that sounds to say, right? Like, for those who don't know, it's the top 2 teams from all 12 groups automatically go through. And then the last 8 teams will come from the best third place teams from all the groups, and it'll just go down to tiebreakers and whatnot. So, I mean, if you're the US and you just get a good draw, I think it's quite realistic. You get a weak team in the round of 32. And, I think we're a quality side. You get it done against, a team that finished second or maybe first in a weaker group. And perhaps you're playing in that, that Gillette Stadium quarterfinal come, I think July 4th or whatever it may be. So I think ceiling is quarterfinal. I think floor probably, not getting grouped.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I'm going to just copy exactly what you said as far as predictions. I think that ceiling is a quarterfinal is a great goal to have on home soil. You got to expect that this is a team who can make something happen. It would be disappointing for us to get grouped, but also just a disappointing for us to lose the next game. As you said, with the extended or the expanded World Cup format, I think that we should put our standards higher than just making it out of the group stage. This is the World Cup that we've hyped up for so long. And, on home soil, this is something we expect this to be special. It's not just like, maybe it'll be special. Like, this has to be special. This has to be something that kids who are 10 years old right now think back to when they make their first start for the US in 15 years or whatever that is. So I'm nervous. I'm excited, but I think it's going to be a good World Cup, and I think we're going to make a serious run. And yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. I mean, great way to round it off. Absolutely. I mean, us being here in the Boston area, right? I think there's no better place to be honest, totally. For a US World Cup run, especially with all the games going on at Gillette. So I'm also pumped up. Again, a little nervous, but, it is what it is. I think we'll do well. I think this is the highest expectations I've had for a US team in probably quite some time. And I think, that's a good thing, right? I think it's a sigh of relief to, finally feel nervous about something that there is actual expectations that we feel like we should be living up to. So we'll see how that unfolds. Play obviously starts in about 2 weeks or whatnot, but thank you for coming on again. Really appreciate this. This was some good,
thanks for having me.
Good ball talk, Yeah,
totally.
Great to break down the roster with you. And, I appreciate you giving us your time. Remember, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Substack. Jack, thank you again for episode 15 with the USMNT. We'll be back talking probably more World Cup stuff, to be honest, once that gets going, and hopefully it's in a positive light. But all for now, thank you for listening and have a good night.